I started puberty when I was 11. That's when it really started, and I had to get all the products and stuff like that. And so it kind of helped having my mom and my older sister. Um, but I would have preferred it to start later because I just was not ready. I didn't know anything about it, and it just came as a shock. So, but now that it's happened, it's happened.
Hi, I'm here to talk to you about adolescence. Now, there has been a lot of talk about how adolescence is being extended into the 20s, past the teens, and becoming another phase called emerging adulthood, which then tends to extend into the late 20s and possibly early 30s before people become, adults per se. And I notice there's a lot of talk about that phenomenon, but there's not really as much talk about adolescence extending the other way at the beginning. Everyone is busy talking about how 30 is the new 20, but not as many people are talking about how 10 is the new 13. Today I'm going to talk to you about how puberty is triggering early and some factors that are contributing to this. So let's talk about puberty and why it can trigger early. Puberty is stimulated by an increase in a brain chemical called kisspeptin. Now, kisspeptin stimulates neurochemical processes that become signals to the ovaries or testicles to increase the production of estrogen, testosterone, and other hormones that activate our sex drive and make us capable of reproduction. Kisspeptin is also affected by other chemicals in the body, one of which is leptin, which stimulates it, and melatonin, which suppresses it. Leptin is a protein produced by fat cells. It exists in our bodies in levels appropriate to the amount of body fat that is also present in our bodies. It plays a critical role in regulating hunger and appetite, and it signals our brains that we are not just full, but fat enough. Melatonin, however, helps regulate the sleep cycle. Melatonin levels rise as the day grows darker, and it makes us sleepy. Melatonin continues to rise throughout the evening until we are drowsy enough to actually fall asleep. Then melatonin levels fall as the morning approaches and we wake up. This cycle is directed by an internal biological clock. Young people who live closer to the equator experience more sunlight throughout the year. Therefore, they have lower levels of melatonin. These young people are more prone to experiencing puberty earlier because of this. However, they are not the only ones who are prone to experiencing puberty early for this reason. Because melatonin levels are sensitive to artificial light sources as well, such as glowing screens. These are present in TVs, computer monitors, smartphones, tablets, and a lot of other devices that are popular in today's society. The light emitted from these devices can suppress melatonin production as well. Suppressed melatonin ultimately makes it harder to feel sleepy, and today's teenagers have 24/7 access to these devices, which is leading to teens having more sleep problems than ever before. Less melatonin from too much light exposure means melatonin isn't present enough to suppress the kisspeptin in the young person's body, which can lead to early triggering of puberty. Let's talk about leptin levels. Leptin levels increase with the amount of body fat in the body. So let's talk about one of the common problems amongst children in America, which is obesity. Obese children have more body fat, thus they produce more leptin. Elevated leptin levels stimulate more kisspeptin. Higher levels of kisspeptin can trigger puberty sooner. As you can see, child obesity and also the tendency of our kids for using devices with glowing screens are very big factors in triggering puberty earlier than necessary for our kids. Now, those are two factors that can be controlled to an extent by parents. Whether or not your child spends too much time on the tablet or on the phone or on the computer, something that could be controlled for the most part by parents, and also just making sure children are healthy and uh, limiting the amount of body fat and therefore the amount of leptin in their systems is something that is fairly under the control of the parents. Now we're going to talk about some factors that are less in control of the parents, less in control of the child, really less in the control of anybody. Another factor that can help trigger puberty earlier than desired is what we call endocrine disruptors. Now, these are chemicals that throw off our body's normal hormonal functioning. These chemicals influence the timing of puberty by altering the production and the effects of naturally produced sex hormones. These disruptors can be found in plastics, pesticides, hair care products, meat items, dairy items, and these chemicals are present everywhere, so much so that children whose parents are very careful about what they eat are still exposed to them. Endocrine disruptors are nearly impossible to avoid in modern society, and high exposure to endocrine disruptors can help trigger puberty earlier. So, with those endocrine disruptors, like I said before, there's not too much you can do unless you're going to allow your kid to live in a bubble. This next factor is a special subject because everyone does their best or tries to do their best in these situations, but ultimately, you never know how it's going to work out. Family stress is another factor that can help lead to early onset of puberty. Research shows that puberty begins earlier for adolescents who grow up in homes where there is more conflict between parents and children, or the fathers are absent, or a situation where the parents and the children report feeling less close to each other. These are all factors in stress that could cause kids to experience puberty earlier. Research implies that when a father is absent from a household, puberty has a higher rate of being triggered in young girls. This is because there's increased exposure to unrelated adult males, which are people that the mother figure would be dating. These adult males release pheromones unknowingly, which are chemicals that, people secrete that affect the biology and behaviors of others. Frequent exposure to these pheromones, i.e., the scent of an unrelated sexually mature male, can stimulate puberty in young girls. Now that we have more information about factors that can trigger puberty earlier than necessary, it's important that we do our best to manage the factors that are somewhat under our control, so that we make sure that our children's childhood is not interrupted